In my previous life, I worked myself to death. I was reborn to the first day of my marriage to an icy CEO wife. I've decided that this lifetime I'm going to completely lie flat, be a salted fish who eats, loafs, and waits to die. But I never expected that my wife had also traveled through time. She mistook me for that scumbag from the future who would betray her and ruin her family, and was sharpening her knife, ready to strike first. Sign it. A cold voice sounded in my ear, carrying a hint of an order that brooked no refusal. I opened my eyes. The glaring light left me a bit dazed. In front of me was an expensive rosewood desk. A document was pushed across it. Black characters on white paper, the four bold words at the top read, "Post-marriage agreement." And seated across the desk was a woman. She wore a neatly tailored white suit, her long hair immaculately pinned at the back of her head. Her face was strikingly cold, and her gaze carried an aloofness that warned strangers to keep their distance. Sophia, my wife. Shouldn't I be in the ICU, listening to the heart monitor flatten into a straight line? I remember it clearly. I worked 996 for 3 straight months for that damn project, and on my last breath, I didn't make it. I just collapsed at my desk. I opened my eyes and was back here. My and Sophia's wedding night. Oh no, actually it's the day we registered our marriage. Staring at the face in front of me that looked 10 years younger, I pinched my own thigh. Ouch, that really hurts. I was reborn. Back to 25, on the day of the business marriage to Cloud City's top female CEO, Sophia. In my previous life, to prove I wasn't living off a woman and to make this nominal wife think more highly of me, I took the seed money from the Taylor family and plunged headfirst into the business world. I worked my tail off learning, attending social events, expanding my network, sleeping only 4 hours a day, and spending all my time on work. 10 years. I went from a penniless nobody to a business tycoon who could stand shoulder to shoulder with Sophia. Then, I died of overwork. I died at my desk, still clutching an unfinished financial report. Thinking back now, it's a colossal joke. I fought tooth and nail, and in the end, I didn't even hold Sophia's hand once. What use is earning more money? If you're dead, it's meaningless. Since heaven has given me a chance to start over, why should I hustle my ass? Lie flat. I must lie flat. I want to be a salted fish, an ultimate couch potato who just eats, waits to die, and enjoys life. Sophia looked at me, her brows slightly furrowing, as if displeased by my daydreaming. Look closely. The agreement stipulates that after marriage we sleep in separate rooms and do not interfere in each other's private lives. I'll give you an auxiliary card with a monthly limit of $500,000 as your spending money. In addition, you can use this villa and the cars in the garage. She paused, then added, on the condition that you don't cause trouble for me outside and don't even dare expect any shares in the Taylor Group. I listened to these familiar clauses, my heart bursting with joy. $500,000 pocket money every month? And I don't even have to work? Living in a villa and driving a luxury car? What kind of godly life is this? No problem. I picked up the pen, didn't even look, and signed my name, Ethan, in a flourish at the end of the agreement. After signing, I pushed the agreement back and wore an exceedingly sincere smile. Dear, it's been a pleasure working with you. Sophia looked at my brisk move and was visibly taken aback for a moment. From her cold eyes, I could see a faint, hardly noticeable look of astonishment and wariness. She didn't seem to expect me to be so decisive. In my previous life, when I saw this contract, I felt deeply insulted, flushed with anger, and had a huge fight with her, swearing I would never spend a single cent of hers. Now, dignity? How much is dignity worth? Isn't it sweeter to lie back and enjoy life? Sophia's red lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to say something. I didn't give her a chance. I let out a big yawn and stood up, looking utterly sleepy. Darling, if there's nothing else, I'm going to bed. I got up at 5 this morning to get this certificate. I'm exhausted. Having said that, I didn't wait for her reaction and walked straight toward the guest room on the second floor. In my past life, I kept my dignity and always slept in the smallest guest room. This life, I must pick the biggest, most comfortable one. Lying on the soft big bed, I smell the sun-warmed sheets and feel so happy I could burst. Starting tomorrow, I'm a professional couch potato, Ethan. What I didn't know was that, after I shut my door, Sophia in the study downstairs instantly grew icy and sharp-eyed. She picked up her phone and dialed a number. Hello. Help me look someone up? Ethan. Yes, the one who just registered our marriage today. I want all his records from childhood to now. The more detailed, the better. After hanging up, she walked to the window, stared into the pitch-black night, and murmured to herself, Ethan, this time, I will never give you the chance to hurt me or my family again. You can pretend all you want, but you won't fool me. The next day, I slept in until I woke up naturally. Sunlight streamed through the slats of the blinds. I stretched lazily and felt every bone in my body loosen. No need to squeeze into the morning rush. No need to attend the morning meeting. No need to put up with the boss's moods. This feeling is great. I shuffled downstairs in my slippers, and an aunt wearing an apron was bustling around in the kitchen. Good morning, Aunt Lisa. I greeted with a big smile. Aunt Lisa is a senior member of the Taylor family, responsible for taking care of our meals and daily needs. She saw me, a little surprised, but still smiled and replied, Good morning, sir. Breakfast is ready. Will you be eating now? Yes, I must. The table was set with a delicate Western-style breakfast, oatmeal, fried eggs, and a few refreshing side dishes. I sat down without ceremony, devouring it like a whirlwind. Just as I was eating happily, Sophia came down the stairs. She had changed into a sharp professional skirt suit, worn light makeup, and still had that icy demeanor. She saw me having breakfast here and paused for a moment. Morning, she uttered the word indifferently, then sat down opposite me. Aunt Lisa also served her a bowl of porridge. I munched on bread while mumbling, Good morning, dear. Sophia ignored me, sipping her porridge in small mouthfuls with graceful poise. I didn't care either. Filling my stomach was the main thing. By the way, darling, I wiped my mouth and remembered something. When are you giving me that 500,000 supplementary card? Sophia's hand holding the spoon froze in midair. She looked up, her beautiful eyes fixed intently on me, full of scrutiny and inquiry. Her gaze made me a little uneasy, but I gritted my teeth and put on what I thought was my most sincere smile. I'm not trying to go out and buy a few things. In my past life, in the name of some so-called pride, I would rather starve than spend a penny on her. Now, I just want to make money, then lie flat. Sophia was silent for a few seconds, then took a black card out of her bag, placed it on the table, and pushed it toward me. The password is 6/8. Remember our agreement. Don't cause trouble. Don't worry. I promise I'll behave. I snatched the card and tucked it into my pocket like a cherished treasure. With this, my slacker life now had material support. Sophia stopped looking at me and continued quietly eating her breakfast. But I could feel that the aura around her seemed even colder than before. After finishing breakfast, she picked up her bag and got ready to go to the office. I followed her to the door and dutifully helped her put on her high heels. Take care, my dear. Drive carefully on the way. She froze mid-change, looked up at me, her expression complex. I waved at her, smiling like a 200-pound child. I didn't close the door until her car had vanished from sight. Then I spun around excitedly in the living room. Free at last. I immediately went back to my room, changed into casual clothes, grabbed the car keys, and rushed into the garage. A row of luxury cars dazzled my eyes. I picked the flashiest red Ferrari, slammed the gas, and sped out of the villa. Where to go? Of course, to spend. I first went to the largest mall in the city and bought a head-to-toe outfit of designer brands. Then headed straight for the most expensive restaurant and ordered a table full of dishes I used to never dare to even imagine. While eating, I kept saying to myself, the life of the rich is just this plain and unadorned and dull. All afternoon I shopped, watched a movie, got a spa, and drained my card's limit to the bottom. In the evening, I was driving my little sports car, enjoying the evening breeze, and contentedly heading home. Passing a crossroads, waiting at a red light. A black Porsche next to me slowly came to a stop. The window rolled down, revealing a familiar face. Sophia. She was staring straight at me, and at the mountain of shopping bags piled on my passenger seat. My heart gave a jolt. Damn, I've been caught. I gave her an awkward smile and waved my hand. Her face remained expressionless. Only her gaze grew colder. When the light turned green, I hit the gas and hurriedly drove off. Back home, I nervously carried the big and small packages back into my room. After a while, Sophia came back too. She stood in the middle of the living room, holding her phone, the screen full of a string of purchase notification messages. 50,000 a day. She looked up at me, her voice betraying no emotion. You really can spend. Just got the card, a bit excited, couldn't hold back. I scratched my head. Ethan. She suddenly called my name, her tone serious. What exactly are you trying to do? I froze. I'm not trying to do anything, just spending money, enjoying life. Enjoy life, she snorted coldly. Do you think I'll believe that? Put away your act. In front of me, you can't pretend. I was stunned. What act? What am I pretending? I just want to be a couch potato. Do you think that by behaving like that you can make me lower my guard? Her gaze scraped me like a knife. Acting deliberately unambitious and aimless, so I won't see you as a threat. And then secretly scheming behind my back to take everything from me like in your previous life? A previous life? My mind went blank with a buzz. She was reborn too? No, that's not right. She just said it like in the previous life. If she was reborn, she should know that in her past life, I was a workaholic who risked everything for my career and ultimately burned myself out to death. Why would she say that I took everything from her? A ridiculous thought popped into my head. She wasn't reborn. She was transmigrated. She came from a parallel universe. In that world, I was an unabashed scumbag of villain. I looked at her eyes full of hatred and vigilance and understood in an instant. She had taken me for that me. She thought my current laid-back attitude was all a disguise. I opened my mouth to explain, but the words died on my tongue. How could I explain? Tell her that I'm not the Ethan she knows, that I was reborn from another world. And in my world, I fought tooth and nail for her until I worked myself to death? Would she believe me? She could only think that I had made up an even more outrageous lie to trick her. It's over. Now, the misunderstanding was huge. Was my deadbeat life, which hadn't even begun, about to end? Looking at her expression of, I've seen through all your schemes, I felt like crying, but had no tears. God, are you messing with me? Darling, have you been reading some weird novels lately? I ventured, trying to defuse the awkwardness with a casual tone. Sophia looked at me coldly and said nothing. That look seemed to say, continue your performance. I forced out 2 nervous laughs. I mean, as for past lives and all that, we're young people of a new era. We should trust science. Science. Sophia curled a mocking smile at the corner of her mouth. Then used science to explain how, I like to put half a sugar cube in my coffee, not a whole one. How do you know that when I'm dealing with urgent documents, I habitually twist the ring on my left ring finger? I was stunned. How would I possibly know those things? Because of my past life for 10 years, although I didn't interact with her much, as someone who watched her quietly, I had long memorized those little habits. But now, from her perspective, today is our first day meeting. Those details became ironclad proof that I had ulterior motives. I guessed. I forced a retort. Guess. Sophia stepped closer to me, her powerful presence making it hard to breathe. Then guess again. What do you think I'm going to do to you next? A dangerous glint flashed at her eyes. I instinctively took a step back, protecting my vulnerable areas. Darling, let's talk this out. Don't hit me. Domestic violence is illegal. Sophia stopped in her tracks. Seeing me so cowed, the disdain in her eyes deepened. Ethan, I don't care what tricks you're hiding up your sleeve. I'm warning you. Behave yourself and be the obedient family son-in-law. Take your pocket money and live your life. If you dare harbor any improper thoughts or try to harm anyone close to me, I swear your end will be 100 times worse than in your previous life. Having said that, she no longer looked at me and turned to go straight upstairs. Her high heels clicked on the wooden stairs, a tuck-tuck sound, each step striking my heart. I slumped onto the sofa, feeling completely hollowed out. What on earth is this? I just want to be a couch potato, Why is it so hard? And now it's even worse. I've been treated as a mortal enemy by the wife who traveled through. She must think all my actions today, willingly signing the agreement, proactively asking for money, spending like crazy, were meant to lull her, part of some grand scheme. The more harmless I appear, the more she thinks I'm scheming. This misunderstanding is deeper than the Mariana Trench. What am I supposed to do? Keep lying flat? She would definitely think I'm slyly developing, and then try to strike first to snuff me out in the cradle. So I should strive and work hard, start a business like in my previous life? She would be even more convinced I've shown my foxtail and have begun to carry out an evil plan. This is a dead end. I held my head and groaned in agony. God, did you think I worked too hard in my last life and deliberately send a transmigrated woman to torment me in this one? No, I can't just sit here and die. I have to find a way to prove my innocence. How to prove it? I need an opportunity, something that can make her believe that I truly pose no threat to her or to the Taylor family. But where is that opportunity? I scratched my head irritably, looked up, and saw the wedding photo hanging on the wall. In the photo, she and I stand side by side, a perfect match of talent and beauty. But neither of us has a trace of smile on our faces. We look like two puppets forced to perform. Suddenly, I remembered something. In my previous life, shortly after we married, Sophia's grandfather, the patriarch of the Taylor family, was taken to the hospital with a sudden heart attack. At that time, the Taylor family's rivals seized the opportunity to strike, spreading rumors that the Taylors were finished, which caused Taylor Group stock to plummet and plunge the company into a grave crisis. In that life, I was still a clueless greenhorn who could only stand by and watch Sophia struggle alone, begging everyone for help and enduring nothing but scorn. It was also from that incident that I resolved to become strong enough to shield her from wind and rain. If this could happen again, and I could give a warning in advance, even help her solve the crisis, would this count as a chance to prove myself? I suddenly leapt up from the sofa. Yes, let's do it this way. I took out my phone and checked the date. There were about 2 weeks left until the old master had his accident in my previous life. Plenty of time. I needed to make some preparations. Although I only want to lie flat in this life, the business knowledge and connections I accumulated over 10 years in my past life haven't disappeared. Sophia, just you wait. This time, I'll let you see what kind of person I really am. I'm not your enemy. I'm just a person who wants to calmly live off someone else, a good man. For the next few days, I fully committed to the couch potato persona. Every day, I slept until well past sunrise, then played games, watched movies, and strolled through the park. The card Sophia gave me had a limit of 500,000. Every day, not more, not less, I made sure to max it out before midnight. The things I bought were all over the place, from luxury goods to game consoles, from fishing rods to telescopes. The storage room of the villa was soon filled with my messy spoils. Aunt Lisa looked at me, her expression shifting from initial surprise to a hesitant silence. And Sophia, watching me every day, grew colder and colder, looking more and more like someone watching a foolish clown. I know she's undoubtedly sneering inside. Fake it, keep faking it. The more she acts like that, the calmer I become. It's the calm before the storm, I get it. On the surface, I'm indulging in food, drink, and fun, but in reality, I've been quietly keeping an eye on the movements of Taylor Group. With the pocket money I'd saved, I secretly registered a shell investment company and contacted a hacker friend from my past life, Alex. Keep an eye on a few companies for me, especially their financial transactions with Grand Horizon Group, I told them online. Grand Horizon Group was the rival that kicked me the hardest after the Taylor family fell in my previous life. Their boss is called William Brown, a smiling tiger with a cold heart and ruthless hands. Ethan, are you trying to stir up something big? Alex sent a smug grin emoji from the other end. Don't ask. If you must know, it's for world peace, I replied. At the same time, I also accidentally let some information slip to Sophia. For example, at meals I pretend to read financial news and mutter to myself, sigh, Grand Horizon Group has been expanding so aggressively lately, like it's on steroids. Doesn't seem worried about its cash flow at all. Sophia's chopsticks would pause for a moment, but she wouldn't say anything. For example, when she was working overtime at home, I'd bring over a glass of milk and then accidentally glance at her documents. Darling, is your company bidding on that plot in the southern part of town? I heard Grand Horizon Group wants it too. It seems they've brought an overseas capital and are determined to win. Sophia would immediately close the file and stare at me coldly. Who told you to look at my documents? I immediately raised my hands in surrender. I didn't see it. I was just passing by. I heard about it. It's just hearsay. Then I slipped away. I knew she wouldn't believe a single word. She would only think that I, this spy, was probing for information again. But I don't care. What I wanted was to drive the words Grand Horizon Group into her mind like a nail, to make her subconsciously wary of that company. That night, as usual, I spent the last penny on my card and, satisfied, got ready to sleep. Just as I lay down, my phone rang. It's Alex. Ethan, something's up. Grand Horizon Group transferred several large sums of money through multiple overseas accounts into a private account. I checked. The account holder is named David. David. I suddenly sat up in bed. I remember this name. He is a deputy director in the finance department of the Taylor Group. In my previous life, it was he who exposed the Taylor Group's financial vulnerabilities, giving Grand Horizon Group the chance to deliver a fatal blow. Keep watching him. I lowered my voice, my heart pounding. Fish, you've bitten the bait. After hanging up, I still couldn't sleep. I knew something big was coming. Sure enough, early the next morning, Aunt Lisa came rushing to my door in a panic. Sir, it's bad. The old master. He suddenly had a heart attack last night and was taken to the hospital. My heart sank, but I still put on a surprised expression. What? How could this happen? I hurried downstairs. Sophia was already dressed and ready to leave. Her face was pale, her eyes ringed with red, but she still forced herself to look calm. When she saw me, she just said coldly, "Stay at home. Don't go anywhere." After saying that, she turned and walked away without looking back. I knew she was afraid I would take the opportunity to cause trouble at the company. I watched her back and sighed. Silly woman. What time is it? And she's still guarding against me. I didn't listen to her. I changed clothes and took a taxi straight to Taylor Group. At the company, everyone was already in a state of panic. The news that the old master was critically ill somehow got out. The company's stock price began to plummet. I didn't go to the CEO's office on the top floor. I went straight to the finance department. I didn't wait long at the door before I saw a middle-aged man hurry out. He was wearing gold-rimmed glasses and looked refined, but his eyes flickered. It was David. He was walking while on the phone. His voice kept very low. Mr. William, it's all taken care of. Yes, the news has been released. The stock price won't hold for long. Okay, I understand. I followed behind him, trailing him all the way into the underground parking garage. He got into a black Audi and was about to start the engine when I opened the door and sat down. Mr. David, where are you in such a hurry to go? I asked him with a smile. David was startled, and when he saw me, clearly his face went deathly pale. You are? Ethan? What are you doing here? Why can't I be here? I shot back. I came to talk business with you. What business? He stammered. I took out my phone and opened a recording file. His conversation with William Brown just now played clearly. Cold sweat broke out on David's forehead at once. You, don't be nervous. I patted his shoulder. I told you this is about business. Split the benefits Grand Horizon Group gave you with me, half. Then you go and turn yourself into Sophia. Say you were confused for a moment, that William Brown deceived you. That way you're only an accomplice. At most you'll get a few years. Otherwise, I waved my phone in front of him. This recording, plus your transfer records with William Brown. Do you think you'll ever get out of prison for the rest of your life? David's face instantly drained of color. He looked at me like I was a demon. He couldn't figure it out no matter what. Why this son-in-law of the Taylor family, whom everyone thought was useless and a kept man, would know all of this. I looked at the terror in his eyes, feeling nothing at all. I'm not some champion of justice. I just want to protect my lazy, salted fish life, nothing more. Half an hour later, Sophia received a phone call. It was from the company's legal department. Ms. Taylor, David has confessed. He admitted to leaking company secrets and colluding with William Brown of Grand Horizon Group to maliciously short the company's stock. Sophia was stunned. She hadn't had time to make a move when the traitor jumped out on his own. Why did he turn himself in? She asked, puzzled. He said, Ethan convinced him to surrender. Ethan, Sophia's pupils suddenly constricted. Him? How would he know about this? Why would he do that? Countless questions surged into her mind in an instant. She hung up the phone and immediately pulled up the company's surveillance footage. On the screen, she clearly saw Ethan appear at the company, then walk straight toward the finance department. After that, he followed David down into the underground garage. Sophia looked at that familiar figure on the screen, her expression growing incredibly complicated. She thought he was a good-for-nothing who only ate, drank, and played. A venomous snake lurking nearby, waiting for the right moment to strike. But now, at her most perilous hour, before she even had time to react, it was he who, silently and without a sound, helped her pull out that most dangerous nail. What on earth is he really? For the first time, she began to doubt the memory of that future she had. David's confession was like a blockbuster bomb, causing an uproar within the Taylor Group. But to the outside world, this became a perfect turning point. Sophia immediately held an emergency press conference. She publicly revealed the evidence of David colluding with Grand Horizon Group and, using their own trick against them, announced that the Taylor Group would formally sue Grand Horizon Group on charges of unfair business competition. At the same time, she also announced that the old master's condition had stabilized and that Taylor Group had received a huge overseas capital injection, making its funding chain extremely solid. As soon as the news broke, public opinion instantly reversed. The stock price, which had originally plummeted, began miraculously to rebound, even higher than before the crisis. Those speculators who had followed the crowd in shorting Taylor Group lost everything. As for Grand Horizon Group, its stock plummeted after the scandal broke. It faced massive litigation damages, and overnight it fell from heaven into hell. A crisis capable of destroying the Taylor Group was thus diffused by Sophia with thunderous measures, described offhandedly. Everyone praised her for remaining calm in the face of danger and turning the tide. Only Sophia herself knew that the turning point had all come from the person she despised most and guarded against most. Ethan. At night, Sophia dragged her weary body back to the villa. A dim floor lamp was on in the living room. Ethan was curled up on the sofa, asleep, covered with a thin blanket. The TV was still on, playing a dull midnight drama. On the dining table were a few simple dishes, already cold, but a glass cover thoughtfully sat beside them. Aunt Lisa walked over and said, "Sir waited up for you all night, wouldn't let us turn off the lights. Said he was afraid you'd be scared when you got back. The food stayed warm, but when you never came back, he waited and then fell asleep." Sophia's heart felt as if something had gently struck it. She went to the sofa, crouched down, and quietly watched Ethan's sleeping face. Gone was the daytime mockery and swagger. In sleep, he frowned slightly, as if troubled by some concern. His eyelashes were long, casting a small shadow under the light. Is this still the man she remembers? Sly and ruthless, willing to do anything for gain? She didn't understand. Why is he helping her? If he wanted money, he could have taken David's leverage and blackmailed William Brown for a fortune. If he wanted fame, he could have taken the credit and become famous overnight in the Taylor Group. But he did nothing. He was like an outsider, silently coming, finishing the job, then quietly stepping back to continue being his own salted fish. It was as if none of this had anything to do with him. "Who are you, really?" She reached out, intending to touch his cheek, but her fingertip stopped just 1 centimeter away from him. She was afraid. She feared that all of this might be yet another, more sophisticated disguise. At that moment, the person on the sofa moved, groggily opening their eyes. "Sophia, you're back." Ethan rubbed his eyes and yawned. "Have you eaten? Aunt Lisa saved you some food." Sophia quickly withdrew her hand, stood up, and resumed that cold demeanor. Oh, that's good." Ethan climbed off the sofa and stretched. "I'm going upstairs to sleep first. I'm exhausted." He shuffled up the stairs in slippers, slowly, and from start to finish didn't say a single word about the company, about David, or about Grand Horizon Group. It was as if he truly was just an ordinary husband waiting at home for his wife to come back. "Stop," Sophia suddenly said. Ethan stopped, turned around, and looked at her blankly. "What's wrong?" Sophia stared at him intently and asked word by word. "You were the one who did it today, weren't you?" Ethan paused, then scratched his head and gave a sheepish laugh. "What are you talking about? I spent the whole day at home playing games. I didn't go out at all." Still pretending. A surge of nameless anger welled up inside Sophia. "Ethan, do you take me for an idiot? I watched the surveillance. You went to the company to find David. Tell me, what exactly is your goal?" Facing her questioning, the smile on Ethan's face slowly faded. He was silent for a few seconds, then sighed. "All right, I admit it. I'm the one who did it." He finally admitted it. Sophia's heart shot up into her throat. She waited for him to continue, waiting for his true motive to be revealed. However, what Ethan said next left her stunned again. "I don't have any ulterior motive." He leaned against the stair railing and said helplessly, "I'm just afraid you'll be too busy to take care of me, and no one will send me my allowance next month." "What?" Sophia doubted she had heard correctly. "Think about it." Ethan counted on his fingers for her. "If the company goes under, you'll definitely go bankrupt. If you go bankrupt, will my monthly $50,000 allowance disappear? I can't be without my allowance. My game's not finished, and my figure collection isn't complete." He looked at her with complete self-righteousness. "So, by helping you, I'm actually helping myself. Keeping the company afloat is keeping my long-term meal ticket." "Yep, that's it." Sophia stood there stunned, her mind completely blank. She imagined 10,000 possibilities. He did it to seize power, to get revenge for a greater conspiracy. But she never imagined that the reason he gave would be this. For pocket money? The reason was so absurd, so outrageous, but looking at his face, so sincere it couldn't be any more sincere. She felt that this might actually be his honest truth. In an instant, the carefully constructed world she had built around the evil villain Ethan collapsed. She looked at the man in front of her, and for the first time, felt she couldn't read him at all. From that day on, Sophia's attitude toward me changed 180 degrees. She no longer looked at me with that gaze reserved for class enemies. Although her face was still cold, beneath that iceberg there seemed to be a slight loosening. For example, she would take the initiative to ask me, "Where did today's money all go?" "Oh, I bought a top-spec gaming PC and hired someone to set up a home theater." I answered without looking up, fully focused on watering the newly bought orchid. She was silent for a moment, then said, "The storage room is full. I'll have Aunt Lisa clear out the gym on the 3rd floor and make it a warehouse for you." My hand trembled as I was watering the plants. The gym on the 3rd floor? That was her private space. In my previous life, I wouldn't have dared touch it. "That's very kind of you," I replied politely. "It's nothing, I don't need it anyway," she said lightly, then turned and went upstairs. I watched her back, still feeling that something was off. Also, the dishes on the dining table began to slowly shift toward my taste. I like spicy food. Before, the table was always filled with light Western dishes. Now, there's 1 or 2 spicy dishes every day. Although Aunt Lisa says she just wants a change of taste, I can tell with my toes that it was definitely Sophia's idea. The most outrageous thing was one night when I was gaming until midnight and got hungry, so I went downstairs to find something to eat. When I opened the fridge, I found Sophia standing behind me in silk pajamas. "What do you want to eat?" "I'll make it for you," she said expressionlessly. I was so startled, I nearly tore the refrigerator door off. No, that's not necessary. I'll just have some instant noodles. Give me a break. Have a trillion-yuan ice-cold female CEO make me a midnight snack? I'd be afraid it'd shorten my life. I scrambled blindly to make a bowl of noodles and crouched in the kitchen corner, slurping. She stood there with her arms folded, leaning against the doorframe, quietly watching me. Her gaze made my whole body crawl. "Sophia, aren't you going to sleep?" I asked cautiously. "I can't sleep," she said. Oh, then do you want to watch some TV? I don't feel like watching. I feel under enormous pressure. What exactly does this woman want? Since the last pocket money incident, she's become weird. She no longer keeps her guard up against me, but that probing look of hers is even stronger than before. She seems to treat me like some rare, unknown creature she wants to dissect and study inside and out. This makes me, a salted fish who only wants to lie flat in peace, feel very uncomfortable. I've decided I need to have a serious talk with her. That day, I specifically waited for her to come home from work. Sophia, let's talk. I invited her to the living room sofa and poured her a glass of water. She looked at me, a hint of questioning in her eyes. I think there might be some misunderstanding between us. I chose my words carefully, trying to make my voice sound sincere and believable. I know you might have a not very favorable impression of me. You think I'm someone who doesn't strive for anything, lazy, and spends money recklessly. Sophia didn't say anything, which was taken as tacit agreement. But I want to tell you, this is the real me. I spread my hands, wearing an open expression. I'm not an ambitious person. I just want to live a steady, peaceful life. In my past life, oh no, before I lived too hard. Now I just want to try a different way of living. So, you helping me is really just for your pocket money? She finally spoke, asking the question that had been bothering her all along. Yes, I answered decisively. Of course, there's also a tiny bit because we're married after all. I can't just stand by and watch you go bankrupt, can I? If you go bankrupt, I'll be starving too. I looked in her eyes and said earnestly, Sophia, I promise you, I have no interest in your company or your assets. I just want to be a decent husband who doesn't cause you trouble. You may not believe me now, but time will prove everything. After I finished speaking, the living room fell into a long silence. Sophia kept her head down, not knowing what she was thinking. After a long while, she finally looked up at me, her expression complicated. Ethan, what if? I mean, if the Ethan in my memories isn't like this. The me in your memories? I played dumb. What was I like before? She paused, as if searching for the right words. He was ambitious, calculative. To climb higher, he would stop at nothing. He used me, used the Taylor family, and in the end, even allied with outsiders and personally destroyed everything we had. Her voice was very soft, but laced with bone-deep hatred. I sighed inwardly. It seems the me in that parallel timeline really was a complete and utter scumbag. Then, he definitely isn't me. I shook my head and said seriously, if I were that kind of person, I would have taken advantage of the last opportunity to join forces with William Brown and swallow up the Taylor family. Why would I help you? Yeah, why? She murmured, as if asking me, and as if asking herself. Maybe, I smiled, half joking, maybe this version of Ethan had a system bug and loaded couch potato mode instead of villain mode. Couch potato mode? She was taken aback for a moment by my novel phrase. Yeah, I nodded. In this mode, my ultimate mission is to loaf around and wait to die, enjoying life. Any side quests related to striving, hard work, or scheming, I'll automatically ignore. Seeing her puzzled expression, I breathed a sigh of relief. Whether she believes me or not, my stance was already clear. I'm just a salted fish, harmless to people and animals. Believe it or not, it doesn't matter. I'm checked out, do as you please. After the conversation, our relationship seemed to enter a delicate period of equilibrium. She stopped deliberately watching me, and I comfortably went on living my salted fish life. I thought the days would continue on so calmly. Not until that day did I receive an unexpected phone call. The call was from my mom. Ethan, when are you and Sophia coming home? Your dad keeps talking about it every day. Only then did I remember that despite having registered our marriage so long ago, I still hadn't brought Sophia home. In my previous life, my mother also made that call. At the time, I was having a spat with Sophia over that post-marriage agreement, so I just used some excuse to brush it off. Later, I was busy starting a business and went home less and less, and that became a lifelong regret. This time around, I don't want any more regrets. Mom, we'll go back this weekend. I agreed without hesitation. After hanging up, I want to find Sophia. She was in the study looking over some documents. Sophia, this weekend, come back home with me and meet my parents? I asked a little apprehensively. After all, our relationship is just that of contractual spouses. She could completely refuse. Sophia looked up at me and didn't answer immediately. I felt a bit nervous. If it's inconvenient for you, then forget it. Okay. I hadn't finished when she blurted out a single word. I thought I must have misheard. I said, okay. She repeated, then lowered her head and went back to the documents, her ears quietly flushing. You pick a time, I'll have my secretary clear my weekend schedule. I stood there, not reacting for a long moment. She actually agreed? She agreed so easily? Did the sun just rise from the west? I walked out of the study in a daze, feeling that tonight's Sophia was so gentle it almost felt unreal. On the weekend, I drove a low-key black Mercedes, taking Sophia back to my home. My home is in an old residential complex. The apartment was allocated by my parents' workplace, about 60-plus square meters, with 2 bedrooms and a living room. The car parked downstairs, looking out of place among the surrounding environment. Sophia looked at the sheets hanging out to dry and the shared bikes scattered about, her eyes showing no trace of disdain, only a hint of curiosity. Let's go, my place is on the 5th floor, no elevator. I carried the bundles of gifts. All things Sophia had asked her secretary to prepare, each one expensive. She wore high heels while climbing the stairs and was a bit unsteady. I instinctively reached out my hand, wanting to steady her. I reached out halfway, then pulled my hand back. We weren't that close yet. She noticed my movement. Her eyes flickered for a moment. She said nothing, only silently took hold of the stair railing. By the time I got to the front door, my mom had already been waiting. The moment she opened the door, she greeted her warmly. Oh my, Sophia is here. Come in, come in. My mother took Sophia's hand and sized her up from head to toe, praising nonstop. Such a good child. So handsome. Sophia clearly wasn't used to this kind of scene. Her body tensed a bit, but she still politely called out, "Hello, Annie." All right. My mom grinned from ear to ear. My dad sat on the sofa, adjusted his reading glasses, and nodded to us as well. He's an honest, plain-spoken intellectual, not good with words. The house is small and cluttered with things, making it feel a bit cramped. But my mom had cleaned the house until it was spotless. Sophia sat on that old sofa she'd been using for over 10 years, without a trace of discomfort. My mom was bustling energetically in the kitchen, while my dad tugged at me and asked in a low voice, "Ethan, is this girl Sophia easy to get along with? She didn't bully you, did she?" In his eyes, Sophia was a lofty female CEO, and our son, coming from an ordinary family, was reaching beyond his station. "Dad, what are you thinking?" I laughed through my tears. "She's really nice, and she's been good to me." That's good. My dad breathed a sigh of relief. "You two just live well together. That's better than anything." At dinner, my mom had prepared a huge spread, piling the small table high with dishes. "Sophia, eat more. Try Annie's cooking." I didn't know what you liked, so I made a bit of everything. She kept serving Sophia more food. A small mountain of food quickly piled up in Sophia's bowl. She looked at the food in the bowl, a little at a loss, but still ate it in small mouthfuls. She ate very slowly, very seriously. "Auntie, your cooking is very delicious," she exclaimed sincerely. When my mom heard that, she was even happier and put another big piece of roast meat on her plate. I saw the troubled look on Sophia's face and quickly came to the rescue. "Mom, don't put any more on her plate. She can't eat that much." As I spoke, I naturally took the piece of roast meat my mom had just served from her bowl and put in my own. "This piece is too fatty. She doesn't like it, so I'll finish it for her." The atmosphere at the table froze instantly. My dad and mom both stared at me with wide eyes. Sophia was stunned too. Her hand holding the chopsticks paused in midair. Only then did I realize that my action had been too natural, too intimate. This is completely unlike something a couple in a contractual marriage would do. I was about to explain when Sophia suddenly spoke. I don't like eating fatty meat." She lowered her head and continued eating. Her voice was soft, but loud enough for everyone at the table to hear. My mother immediately caught on and slapped her thigh. "Oh dear, what a memory of mine. Next time Annie will make lean meat for you." A small, awkward moment was so effortlessly diffused by her. I stole a glance at her and noticed her ears had gone red again. After dinner, my mom pulled Sophia into the living room to chat, and my dad called me into the bedroom. "Son, be honest with your father." My dad closed the door, his expression serious. "Are you hiding something from us about you and Sophia?" "No, what could there be?" I felt a jolt in my heart. "Don't pretend." My dad sighed. "Your mom can't see it, but I can. You two don't even look like newlyweds. You're too polite as if you're co-workers. Old hands are still the craftiest." I fell silent. "Is it that her family looks down on us?" my dad asked again. "No, Dad, don't jump to conclusions." I hurriedly denied. "We're just both a bit introverted. We need some time to adjust." My father looked at me for a long time, then patted my shoulder. "Ethan, marriage isn't a transaction. Living together, the most important thing is sincerity. I don't ask for wealth and fame for you. I only hope you'll be happy." Coming out of the room, I saw Sophia sitting with my mother, looking through a photo album. The photo album contained pictures of me from childhood to adulthood. There was one of me grinning in split crotch pants, one of me receiving a 3 Good Student Award at school, and one of me in a graduation gown at university. This is Ethan when he was little, very naughty, always playing outside, coming home covered in mud. My mom said, pointing at a photo with a chuckle. Sophia listened, a slight smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. She saw me and waved. "Ethan, come over." I walked over. She pointed to a photo of me at 7 or 8 years old with a bandage on my nose and asked, "What happened here?" "Oh, that." My mom jumped in to answer. "He fell out of a tree, trying to save a kitten that was stuck up there and scraped his nose." Sophia looked at the photo of me, and a trace of an emotion I couldn't read flickered in her eyes. Was it tenderness? I must have been seeing things. When I left my house, it was already dark. My mom insisted on stuffing a big red envelope into her hands, saying it was a meeting gift. Sophia couldn't refuse and had to accept it. The ride home was very quiet. "You used to save cats when you were a kid?" she asked suddenly. "Huh? Oh, right." I hadn't expected her to remember that. I was an idiot then, saw the cat crying pitifully in the tree, and on impulse climbed up after it. And then? What happened to that cat? I took it home and kept it as a pet for years until it died of old age. She fell silent. After a moment, she took the red envelope out of her bag and handed it to me. "Here, take this. This is a meeting gift from my mom." "I know," she said, "but this is your parents' intention. I can't accept it. Give it back to them for me, or just consider it your pocket money." I looked at the red envelope, feeling a bit uneasy. She was still putting distance between us. "Sophia." I parked the car at the roadside and turned to look at her. "Thank you for today." "Thank me for what?" "Thank you for being willing to play along with me in this show, to put my parents at ease." She looked at me and shook her head. "I'm not acting. Your parents are very kind." She looked out the window and said softly, "They remind me of my grandfather. For a long time, I haven't felt the warmth of a family like this." There was a hint of barely noticeable fragility in her voice. Only then did I remember that her parents had died in an accident when she was very young, and it was her grandfather who raised her by himself. And now she thinks her grandfather is critically ill again. This woman who appears strong is actually lonelier inside than anyone. My heart softened, and as if compelled by some unseen force, I reached out and placed my hand over the back of her hand on the seat. Her hand was very cold. She stiffened all over like a startled rabbit and tried to pull her hand back. But I gently held on. "From now on, my parents will be your parents. This place will be your home too." I looked into her eyes and said it earnestly. She didn't struggle anymore. She just looked at me quietly, her eyes slowly reddening. Outside the car window, the city's neon lights flickered, reflecting in her beautiful eyes like crushed starlight. At this moment, that invisible wall between us seemed to crack. Since I went back to my place, The atmosphere between Sophia and me has become increasingly subtle. She no longer deliberately avoids me. Sometimes at home, she even takes the initiative to say a few words to me. They're all trivial topics, like how nice the weather is today, or what we want for dinner. But for me, this was already a huge improvement. The way she looked at me had shifted from the initial vigilance and scrutiny to curiosity and inquiry, occasionally even tinged with a trace of dependence that she herself hadn't noticed. For example, one night there was thunder and lightning, and the villa suddenly lost power. I felt my way in the dark to find a candle and lit it, then saw her standing alone in the pitch-black living room, her face somewhat pale. I suddenly remembered that in my previous life, Aunt Lisa had told me she'd been afraid of the dark and thunder since she was a child. I handed her a candle. "Here, hold it. Don't be afraid." She took the candle. The flame lit her face, making her look especially fragile. "I'm not afraid," she said stubbornly. No sooner had the words left her mouth than a bolt of lightning streaked across the sky outside the window, followed by a thunderclap that shook the ears. Her hand trembled, and the candle nearly fell to the floor. I sighed, walked over, and sat down beside her. "Say you're afraid if you are. Nobody will make fun of you." She didn't speak. She only quietly scooted a little closer to me. We sat like that in the dark, quietly listening to the wind and rain outside. After some unknown time, she suddenly spoke. "Ethan, you really aren't going to do anything?" "Do what?" I asked, feigning ignorance. "Work, or something else." She spoke vaguely. I knew what she was trying to ask. She still couldn't believe that someone capable of resolving a Taylor Group crisis with a snap of the fingers would be content to be a couch potato. "I don't want to." I shook my head. "I used to be exhausted. Now I just want to rest. Play some games every day, tend to some plants, tease the cat a bit. It's nice." "Tease the cat." She grabbed the keyword. "Didn't you say the cat you owned had already?" "Oh, I just adopted one from the pet shop this afternoon," I said, and pulled an orange little kitten out from behind the sofa. The little creature let out a meow and rubbed its furry head against my chin. Sophia's eyes suddenly lit up. All women, it seems, have no resistance to these furry little animals. The icy female was no exception. "What is its name?" She couldn't help asking, reaching out cautiously to stroke the kitten's back. "Not decided yet." "How about you name it?" She thought for a moment and said, "Call it Goldie." "Goldie?" I laughed. "All right, bring in wealth and treasure. Good name." The kitten seemed to like her too, came over on its own and licked her fingertip with its little tongue. Her body stiffened instantly, but her eyes softened like never before. In that moment, I seemed to see a real Sophia who had let down all her defenses. When the power came back on, she held Goldie and was reluctant to let go for a long time. From that day on, Goldie became a new bridge of communication between us. She would buy Goldie all kinds of premium cat food and toys. The first thing she did when she came home from work was look for Goldie. And I, too, enjoyed the leisure. Watching her holding the cat, sitting on the carpet with a look of tenderness, I would occasionally feel a little dazed. Is this really the transmigrated woman from the villain world? I even began to think that such peaceful, cozy days would be quite nice if they could go on forever. However, the calm days did not last long. That day, Sophia's grandfather, Mr. Taylor, was discharged from the hospital. To celebrate the patriarch's recovery, the Taylor family held a grand banquet. As a son-in-law of the Taylor family, I of course had to attend. The banquet was filled with guests, all of them Cloud City notables. I wore the bespoke suit Sophia had prepared for me and stayed by her side, playing the part of a suitable ornament. Mr. Taylor sat at the head of the table. Although recently recovered from a serious illness, he was vigorous and his gaze sharp. He saw me and waved his hand at me. "So you're Ethan, huh? Come over. Let Grandpa take a look." I mustered my courage and walked over. "Good morning, Grandpa." The old man took my hand, sized me up carefully, then nodded. A fine-looking young man, very suitable for a Sophia. He turned to Sophia and said, "Sophia, you did very well this time. But one person's energy is limited. For company matters in the future, you can let Ethan help shoulder some of the burden." Sophia's expression changed slightly. I knew the old man wanted me to join the company. In my previous life, I faced the same choice. At the time, to prove myself, I agreed without hesitation. But now, Grandpa, I said with a smile, I can't handle the company's affairs. I'm not very capable. I only know how to eat, drink, and have fun. Sophia is so impressive. Having her at the company is enough. The moment I said that, the relatives around us all showed looks of contempt. Doesn't strive to improve. Really just a freeloader. How could Sophia be interested in someone like that? Various whispers slipped into my ears. Sophia's expression also looked somewhat unpleasant. She probably felt that me saying something like that in this situation made her lose face. The old man didn't get angry. He just looked at me deeply. Young man, it's good to have your own ideas. But as a man of the Taylor family, you ought to take some responsibility. At that moment, a discordant voice sounded. Responsibility? Third uncle, don't joke. A pretty boy living off his wife. What responsibility could he possibly have? The one speaking was Sophia's cousin, Daniel Taylor. He had always been resentful of Sophia taking over the Taylor group and constantly opposed her. Today, he obviously wanted to use me to humiliate Sophia. Ethan, I heard you blew through hundreds of thousands in a single day recently and maxed out my sister's supplementary card. You're sure bold when it comes to spending. Daniel Taylor sneered. I hadn't spoken when Sophia coldly said, It's only right that I spend my husband's money. If my cousin is envious, he can find himself a rich wife. Daniel Taylor choked, his face paling, then flushed with humiliation and anger. Sophia, don't get smug. You think that resolving Grand Horizon Group's crisis means you can rest easy? I'm telling you, the real trouble is still ahead. As he spoke, he took a document from his bag and threw it onto the table. This is the chip supply contract the company signed with Europe's K.C. Group. I just got the news. K.C. Group unilaterally tore up the contract and cut off all our chip supplies. Next month, none of our new products can be shipped. Let's see how you plan to deal with this. At these words, the whole hall went into an uproar. Taylor Group's main business is electronics. Chips are its lifeblood. Without chips, it's equivalent to cutting off Taylor Group's future. Sophia's face went instantly pale. What did you say? Sophia snatched up the document and skimmed it quickly, her fingers turning slightly white from gripping it. KC Group unilaterally breached the contract? There was a note of disbelief in her voice. That's right, Daniel Taylor said triumphantly, looking at her. Not only that, they've teamed up with several European suppliers and completely sealed us off. Right now, across the entire European market, we can't get a single chip. Why? We've been working with KC Group for 5 years, and it's always been pleasant. Sophia asked, puzzled. Why? Daniel Taylor sneered. Because someone gave them a price they couldn't refuse. I heard it was William Brown from Grand Horizon Group pulling the strings. His company is almost bankrupt, but his connections remain. He's trying to drag you down with him. Mr. Taylor was shaking with anger, pointing at Daniel Taylor. You bastard. The company is in such a mess, and instead of helping, you're gloating. Third uncle, I'm not gloating. I'm warning Sophia, Daniel Taylor said hypocritically. She's too young and always thinks she could do anything. This time, let's see how she explains it to the board. Sophia clutched the document tightly, saying nothing, but the slight trembling of her shoulders betrayed the unease inside her. I know that this time, she has truly run into trouble. In my previous life, this never happened. Perhaps because this reborn butterfly, fluttered my wings and altered the course of certain events. William Brown was driven by me into a corner and resorted to this move that harms the enemy 1,000 while injuring himself 800. I looked at Sophia's pale profile and sighed. It seems my salted fish life is going to be forcibly interrupted again. It's just a chip. What's the big deal? A lazy voice sounded amid the tense atmosphere. Everyone turned to look toward the voice and discovered that the speaker was me, who had been quietly eating pastries nearby. Daniel Taylor sounded as if he'd heard the biggest joke. Ethan, do you know what a chip is? Do you understand what this supply cutoff means for the Taylor Group? Do you think it's like shopping at a mall? Just swipe a card and it's done. Of course I know. I put down my fork, wiped my mouth, and slowly stood up. I walked over to Sophia, gently patted her shoulder, and gave her a reassuring look. Then I turned to Daniel Taylor and smiled. Europe's chips are gone. We can use domestic ones. Domestic? Daniel Taylor laughed even harder. Are you out of your mind? Which domestic company's technology can meet KC Group standards right now? If we use domestic chips, our product's performance will drop by at least half. Who would buy it then? Who said there aren't any? I looked at him and said, word by word, CoreTech Incorporated. Their Dragon Core 1 performs no worse than KC Group's, and in some aspects even surpasses it. CoreTech Incorporated, the name left the knowledgeable people present stunned. You're talking about the CoreTech Incorporated that's about to go bankrupt? Didn't they have their funding cut off and projects halted 3 years ago? A director asked. That was before. I shook my head. I just heard they overcame technical hurdles. Dragon Core 1 has been developed successfully. They just lack funds for mass production. Of course, I didn't hear about it. The founder of CoreTech Incorporated was my college classmate in my previous life, Chris Green, a tech maniac. In my previous life, his project nearly collapsed because of financial problems. It was when he was at his worst that I, in my personal capacity, invested some money in him, which is what kept him afloat. Later, CoreTech Incorporated soared to the skies and became the leading company in the country's chip industry. In this matter, besides him and me, no one knew about. In this life, although I didn't start a business, I kept watching his movements closely. I knew that he was now frantic over funds for mass production. Nonsense. Daniel Taylor didn't believe it at all. A company on the verge of collapse. How could it possibly develop a top-tier chip? Ethan, don't pretend to know more than you do, just to show off. I ignored him and simply looked at Sophia, asking seriously, do you believe me? Sophia looked into my eyes. In those eyes, there was none of the usual mockery and indolence. Instead, there was a confidence and determination she had never seen before. She remembered the incident during the last Grand Horizon crisis. It was also when everyone was at a loss that this man resolved everything in a way she couldn't comprehend. This time, could he really do it? Her heart was torn. Believing him meant wagering the entire future of the Taylor Group. Not believing him would also lead the Taylor Group down a dead end. It was a dilemma. After a long time, she took a deep breath, as if she had made up her mind. Okay. She looked at me and nodded firmly. I believe you. Then she turned to all the directors and relatives and announced in an authoritative tone. From now on, Taylor Group will completely stop all cooperation with K.C Group. We will immediately begin negotiations for cooperation with CoreTech Incorporated. Ethan will be fully in charge of this matter. The whole room fell dead silent. Everyone stared at her as if she were insane. Daniel Taylor grew even more furious. Sophia, are you out of your mind? You actually want to let some clueless pretty boy take charge of such an important matter? Are you making a mockery of the entire Taylor family? I'm the CEO, I decide. Sophia's voice was quiet but full of strength. If anything goes wrong, I'll take full responsibility. She looked at me, and there was a light in her eyes I had never seen before. It was complete, unreserved trust. I felt a warmth in my heart and smiled at her. Don't worry, darling. This time, I'll also show you that besides spending money, your man can do some other things too. The next day, I took Sophia and personally went to CoreTech Inc. The company was located in a remote industrial park. The office was rented, small and shabby. My old classmate, Chris Green, thought he was seeing things when he saw me. Ethan, he adjusted his thick glasses, incredulous. What are you doing here? Behind him, several technicians were gathered around a machine, arguing intensely about something. Exhaustion showed on every face, dark circles under their eyes. I'm here to give you money, I said bluntly. Saying that, I introduced Sophia behind me to him. This is Sophia, the president of the Taylor Group. She's very interested in your Dragon Core 1. Chris Green looked at the elegant Sophia, then at me, and was completely stunned. In his memory, Ethan was still that poor kid from college who used to hang out with him in the library, both dreaming of changing the world with technology. They hadn't seen each other for just a few years. How had he ended up connected with the president of the Taylor Group? Mr. Gu. He rubbed his hands nervously. Sophia nodded at him, then turned her gaze to the precise instruments in the laboratory. Mr. Chris, may I see your chips? Of course. Chris Green took us on a tour of their laboratory. He explained to us in detail the various performance parameters of the Dragon Core 1. The more Sophia listened, the brighter her eyes became. The technical team she brought tested the chip on site, and their conclusions matched mine to the last detail. The performance of the Dragon Core 1 is fully on par with C Group's products and even surpasses them in power consumption and stability. This is a great product capable of shocking the entire industry. Mr. Chris, after the tour, Sophia spoke directly. On behalf of the Taylor Group, I hope to reach a strategic cooperation with your company. We are willing to invest $500 million to buy out all of Dragon Core 1's production capacity for the next 3 years. In addition, we will invest another $500 million to help you expand the production lines. $1 billion. Chris Green and his team all took a sharp, cold gasp. They had begged and pleaded for millions in R&D funding, enduring nothing but disdain. Now, happiness had arrived so suddenly. Chris Green's lips trembled with excitement. Sophia, are you serious? Of course. Sophia glanced at me. I trust my husband's judgment. The contract was signed quickly. When Taylor Group announced a strategic partnership with Cortec Incorporated and launched a new product line equipped with the Dragon Core 1, the entire industry was shaken. At first, everyone took a wait-and-see and mocking attitude. William Brown of Grand Horizon Group even publicly mocked Sophia for grasping at straws, actually trusting an obscure little company. However, when the first batch of products hit the market, everyone was stunned. Reviews from top tech media showed that Taylor Group's new product thoroughly outperformed all competitors in the same period. And that mysterious Dragon Core 1 became famous overnight, hailed as a national pride. Taylor Group's stock price soared all the way, reaching new highs. And those who were waiting to see Sophia humiliated ended up with their faces beaten and swollen. Especially Daniel Taylor, who was lambasted by the old man at the board meeting and completely lost his qualification to compete for the inheritance. William Brown's Grand Horizon Group, which was already teetering, was dealt an even harsher blow by this incident and soon announced bankruptcy liquidation. I effortlessly defused a world-shaking crisis once again. This time, no one dared call me a kept man anymore. My status in the Taylor family, and even in the entire Cloud City business district, underwent earth-shattering changes. Countless people came to curry favor with me, hoping to uncover my secret of turning stone into gold. But I refused them all. Once the crisis was over, I immediately reverted to my old ways and went back to being a slacker. My daily tasks were to play with Goldie, feed my newly bought koi, and study recipes. Sophia seemed to have gotten used to it as well. She no longer asked me why, nor did she try to make me go back to the office. She simply, quietly, kept everything in the house in perfect order. She would remember to bring me sliced fruit while I was playing games. And when my attempts at new recipes failed and I set the kitchen on fire, she would sigh helplessly while deftly calling for housekeeping. Our relationship, in a strange, kind of tacit understanding, grew increasingly harmonious. We still slept in separate rooms, but the door to her study was no longer locked tight against me. Sometimes when I passed by, I'd see her staring at the computer, a faint, elusive smile at the corner of her mouth. I knew she was looking at my old photos. The photo album my mom had given her was taken back to her house and placed on her bedside. I began to feel that the memories she claimed were from the future were gradually losing their hold on her. She was getting to know me again, a completely new Ethan who belonged solely to this world. I thought we would go on like this, slowly transforming from a contractual couple into a real family. Until that night. I got up at night to drink water and passed by her room, finding the door slightly ajar. A suppressed, agonized sobbing came from inside. My heart tightened. I pushed the door and went in. She was sitting on the edge of the bed, hugging her knees, her body trembling uncontrollably. In the moonlight, I saw her face streaked with tears. "What's wrong?" I walked over and crouched down in front of her. She looked up, saw it was me, and her tears flowed even more fiercely. "Ethan," she threw herself into my arms, holding me tightly as if clutching the last straw of salvation. "I had a nightmare. I dreamed. I dreamed about things from my past life." Her voice was full of fear and despair. "I dreamed that you jumped off the top floor in front of me. You were covered in blood, and you said to me, 'Sophia, if there's a next life, I never want to meet you again.'" My whole body trembled. Me jump off a building? Me tell her I never want to meet her again in the next life? Is she talking about me? No, this is talking about in her world, that I ends up jumping off a building and killing himself. I held her, gently patting her back, while a storm of emotions churned inside me. I had always thought that, in her world, I was the great villain who ruined everything for her. But now it seems the truth of the matter is far more complicated than I imagined. Under my soothing, Sophia's emotions gradually calmed. She leaned against me like an injured kitten and, in fits and starts, told me the future story that belonged to her. In her world, Ethan, that is, the me, also came from humble origins and was likewise joined to her in a marriage of business. But that me did not choose to lie flat. He was ambitious. After joining the Taylor Group, he climbed step by step using extraordinary talent and scrupulous schemes, and soon seized control of the company. He became cold, suspicious, and authoritarian. He purged rivals and crushed everyone who opposed him, including relatives of the Taylor family. Sophia and he, from being a contractual couple at the start, became real business rivals, fighting each other to the death within the company. I thought everything he did was to swallow up the Taylor family. Sophia's voice carried a hint of hoarseness. I hated him. I guarded against him. I used every means to stop him. Until that day, when Taylor Group's biggest competitor, together with overseas capital, launched a hostile takeover against us. We exhausted all our cards. The stock price kept plummeting, and the company was on the verge of collapse. Everyone thought we were finished. The board was even preparing to accept the takeover terms. At that moment, he stepped forward. Sophia's body began to tremble slightly again. He used all the assets he'd invested overseas in his own name over the years to set up a fund, buying up stocks on the secondary market regardless of cost, and forcibly pulled the share price back up. It was only then that I realized how much he'd invested behind my back over the years, and how big a sum he'd accumulated. He used his own money to save the entire Taylor Group. I listened quietly, my heart full of mixed emotions, that I had actually done the same thing I did in my previous life. We both chose, in our own ways, to protect this woman. Only, the way he did it was more extreme and lonelier. But it was already too late. Tears streamed down Sophia's face again. He signed a wager agreement to raise funds. Although he saved the Taylor Group, he himself went bankrupt and took on astronomical debts. I went to find him. I wanted to tell him that the Taylor Group's money is his money, that we could shoulder it together. But he wouldn't see me. Then I received the news that he had jumped from the top floor of the company. When I arrived, he was already... She couldn't continue. She cried uncontrollably in my arms. I finally understood. I understood why she both hated and feared me, yet at certain moments showed such complicated emotions. She hated the Ethan who had hurt her and harmed her family. What she couldn't forget, however, was the Ethan who, in the final moment, used his life to protect her. These two contradictory images tore at her and tormented her in her memory. And my appearance, an Ethan completely different from the one in her memories, plunged her into even deeper confusion and chaos. Why would he do this? I asked on her behalf the question she had never dared to ask. Sophia shook her head. I don't know. He didn't say anything. The last thing he left was, in the next life, don't ever meet me again. I fell silent. I could probably guess what that me meant. He was too proud. He loved this woman in his own way, protecting this family. But he refused to let her see him defeated and humiliated. So he chose the most brutal way to end it all. He thought this was a release, but he didn't know how deeply it would scar those who were left alive. Sophia. I cupped her face, wiped away her tears, and looked at her intently. Look at me. She looked at me with tear-filled eyes. I'm not him. I enunciated each word with absolute clarity. My name is Ethan, but I'm not the Ethan in your memories. I won't leave you, and I would never hurt you in that way. Whether you believe me or not, I came from another world. In my world, I exhausted myself to death trying to keep up with you. Heaven gave me a chance to start over. I just want to live properly this time, for you and for myself. Everything I said is true. She stared at me, and my eyes full of sincerity. This time, she no longer doubted. Maybe it was the emotional shock of tonight, or perhaps my continual actions finally let her drop her guard. She nodded, then, on her own initiative, kissed me. It was a cold kiss, tinged with the salty taste of tears. But soon it became sizzling hot. The next day, when I woke up, the space beside me was empty, but her warmth and scent still lingered. I stared at the ceiling, somewhat dazed. Are she and I officially together now? I went downstairs and saw Sophia, sitting at the dining table, quietly eating breakfast. She had changed into a set of casual home clothes, her long hair casually loose, lacking its usual coldness and aloofness, with a touch more laziness and gentleness. When she saw me, her cheeks flushed slightly, and she awkwardly turned her head away. Morning, morning. I walked over and sat down opposite her. The atmosphere was a bit awkward. I scratched my head, not knowing what to say. Ethan, she spoke first last night. I didn't know anything about last night. I blurted out immediately. I drank too much and blacked out. She froze for a moment, then understood what I meant and couldn't help but curve her lips into a pretty smile. Me too. We exchanged a smile. Everything was understood without words. Let the past be the past. We were both about to welcome a completely new beginning. From that day on, my relationship with Sophia underwent a qualitative leap. We moved in together. I legitimately moved from the guest room into the master bedroom. She was no longer that aloof, icy CEO, and I was no longer that deadbeat son-in-law who loafed his life away. We lived together like the most ordinary couple in the world, enjoying a warm, cohabiting life. In the mornings, I would get up a bit earlier than her and make her a simple breakfast made with love, although the taste was hit or miss. Every time she ate it expressionlessly, then, in response to my expectant look, went on to comment, "There's improvement." During the day, she'd go to the office while I stayed home petting the cat, tending the fish, and playing games. Occasionally, she'd send me a message. "What did you have for lunch?" I'll take a photo of the takeout and send it over. She'll reply with an exasperated emoji, and then, half an hour later, a five-star hotel's lunch will be promptly delivered to our doorstep. In the evenings, she'll try to cut down on social engagements and come home earlier. We'll curl up on the sofa together, watch an old movie, or do nothing at all, just quietly be together. Goldie would curl up on our laps and let out contented purrs. Days like this were plain, yet they filled me with an unprecedented happiness. I thought my task in this life was simply to stay by her side and live out my days in peace and stability. But I was wrong again. It was my birthday. Sophia deliberately turned down all her work, saying she wanted to give me a surprise. That evening, she took me to a place. It wasn't a fancy restaurant, nor a romantic seaside. It was an observatory, a huge astronomical telescope pointed toward the vast starry sky. "Happy birthday." She hugged me from behind and whispered in my ear. "How did you know I like this?" I asked, somewhat surprised. I was indeed fascinated by the starry sky since I was a child, and I even bought a telescope, but that was a little secret I kept in my heart. My parents didn't even know. "I read your diary," she said. "A diary?" I was stunned. "When did I ever write a diary?" "You forgot," she smiled. "Your notebook from college. When you last went home, the housekeeper gave it to me." She was talking about that notebook of mine where I jot down all sorts of wild ideas and life plans. I had long since forgotten about it, lost in the ether. "Ethan," she turned to face me, looking at me seriously, I know you don't truly want to be a washed-up layabout. I know you also harbor stars and seas in your heart. She took a document out of her bag and handed it to me. What is this? My birthday present to you. I opened the file, my pupils shrinking sharply. At the top of the document were a few large words: Stellar Exploration, Aerospace Technology Company, Equity Transfer Agreement. My name was glaringly printed in the column for legal representative. You? I stared at her in shock. This company was registered in your name, she said. I've already acquired a private domestic enterprise with aerospace credentials and assembled a top-tier technical team. The capital, the technology, and the talent are all ready. Now it only lacks a CEO. She looked at me, her eyes shining with a light brighter than the stars. Ethan, go do what you want to do. Don't suppress your dreams for my sake. Your world shouldn't consist of only me and this mansion. Your journey should be the stars and the sea. I looked at her at this birthday gift I never even dared to dream of, and my eyes instantly grew wet. I had always thought that she was the one who needed my protection. In the end, I realized she had been protecting my dreams in her own way all along. I held her tightly, my voice choked. Sophia, you really are sent by the heavens to torment me. Am I? She laughed softly in my arms. Right back at you. A year later, Stellar Exploration successfully launched the first private commercial rocket. At the celebration banquet, as CEO, I was surrounded by a ring of reporters. Ethan, could you tell us what your original intention was when you founded Stellar Exploration? A reporter asked. I picked up the microphone and glanced at the woman in the audience who was smiling at me. My original intention was very simple, I said with a smile. I just wanted to prove to my wife that I can support her and that I can afford to. The whole audience burst into laughter. And in the crowd, Sophia quietly took out her phone amid the laughter and sent a message to her hacker friend Alex. Help me check whether parallel universe travel could be bidirectional. She put her phone away, looked at me on stage, full of swagger, and a suggestive smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. Maybe her Ethan hadn't died. He had simply come to her side in another way. And she likewise.